Is up, everybody? I am Steve SVU, and welcome to MMC Season 3 Finals. Our finalists are IHLP, owner of the New York Garchomps, and Patrick, owner of the Claire Kingdras. So let's get right into their teams. So here are our two competitors' teams. What I am sort of expecting from IHLP is I am expecting him to go very defensive against Patrick's team. This is because Patrick's team has an insane amount of offense, and IHLP, with his incredible regen cores, are able to shut down large portions of those offensive menaces. However, I do expect a few things. I expect Aegislash to be coming, as well as potential either Hitmontop or Swalot. I think Lickitung and Dedenne are never going to be coming here, but I do see a realm where Hitmontop comes to be able to be a potential Roaring Moon answer. However, I do feel like Swalot is also an answer here as well, because Muck is able to be a really annoying threat against IHLP's team with Toxic Spikes, if he doesn't have Swalot. And not only that, but Swalot is also able to take a lot of the fighting type moves that Quaquaval is able to aim at him, as well as the grass type moves from Brambleghast. Slowbro, I think, is going to be paired along with Tornadus, as with his regen core, it'll be incredibly hard for Patrick to break. King Lu is also going to be coming, I feel like, to either hazard stack or get good walls on a large portion of his team, and Aegislash and Mega Altaria are going to be coming, I feel like, mainly because Mega Altaria has a really good matchup into Roaring Moon, and Aegislash with its Shadow Sneak is able to prevent some sweeps because of its priority. And as for Patrick's team, I genuinely have no clue exactly what Patrick is going to bring. I do think Roaring Moon here is okay, however, I think Roaring Moon is a little bit walled by Mega Altaria as well as defensive Ting Lu. So I'm not 100% sure about if he is going to be bringing that or not, but I do think Landorus is a really good bring here, mainly because with its mix set, it's able to do huge amounts of damage into everything on his team, because with a combination of Earth Power, Crunch, and Sludge Wave, he's able to hit everything on IHLP's team insanely hard. I do also expect Metagross to be coming, mainly because with its weakness policy set, it can punch out a lot of holes on IHLP's team. Screamtail, I think, is always going to be coming alongside Moltres, mainly because he's able to wall out huge portions of IHLP's team if Aegislash isn't there, and Moltres is able to handle Aegislash most of the time. I do think Quaquaval is a good idea to bring here, though I do think Quaquaval or Roaring Moon is going to have to stay back, as both of them I feel like are taking up too much of the same roles and are walled by a lot of the same mons. I do see a realm where a Choice Scarf Quaquaval is able to sweep large portions of IHLP's team, especially since with Triple Axle, it's able to do huge amounts of damage into things like Tornadus, Ting Lu, as well as Mega Altaria. And like I mentioned before, Muck is able to do really well with its Toxic Spike set, and Brambleghast being able to rapid spin away any hazards that Ting Lu might want to set up will really help. And then I do also see a realm where either Ursaring, Glaceon, or even Raichu comes. As Raichu, I feel like will be able to do pretty good into things like Tornadus and Slowbro, though I feel like it does get walled out pretty hard by Ting Lu and Mega Altaria, even if it does have a luring voice. Glaceon, I feel like, is a really solid option to bring, mainly because with its Freeze Dry, it's able to hit Slowbro, Tornadus, Ting Lu, and Mega Altaria for super effective damage, and the only thing that really threatens it is Aegislash, and he does have a lot of good options for Aegislash as well. Ursaring, I do feel like, is an option as well, because with an Eviolite, it's insanely bulky, and it has a pretty high attack stat to be able to punch a hole through IHLP's team fairly early on in the game. But overall, these are the combatants, this is the matchup. Let's get right into finals of the MMC Draft League. Welcome everybody to the MMC Finals. We have IHLP and we have Patrick here. Man, this is a really crazy time for us, honestly. This is the first season where Elking is not in finals. He is the two-time champion, and IHLP dethroned him last week. So having him versus Patrick here is crazy, especially since early on in the season, IHLP did end up winning against Patrick. So this is the run back of the century when it comes to Patrick versus IHLP. I helped IHLP with prep, and I can already see from his team here that there are a few things that I didn't bring for him. I brought Moltres, I brought Screamtail, and Landorus. However, I didn't bring Ursaring and Roaring Moon or Bramblegast. I brought Muck, as well as um, I brought Quaquaval, and then I also brought Metagross. Not having Metagross is really good for IHLP's Mega Altaria. So we go for the Ursaring lead here. Oh, going for Swords Dance, okay. This is the same sort of thing that he did for last week's match, I believe. He went for an early game, not sweep, but he went for an early game Ursaring to be able to punch holes in his opponent's team. And I feel like this is sort of what he's trying to go for now. IHLP does have to watch out because Ursaring does carry really good fighting not stab, but fighting moves like close combat, as well as Ice Punch. Ice Punch from Swords Dance boosted Ursaring will do a lot of damage. Something that is good to know is that he does not have a Flame Orb, so that means that he has to rely on getting status by something else. I believe, yeah, he's not... no, he is not on Nerve, so that means that berries aren't going to be a thing. Oh, Play Rough, yeah, that also makes sense. Ooh, that is... okay, that's an Eviolite, for sure. And that Play Rough did a good amount of damage. What my prediction is, he is probably Play Rough, either Facade, or some form of normal stab, possibly Return. Okay, Body Slam. Ooh, okay, that para was really nasty. Now he just has to hope on no full para, I believe, but at the same time, I think he kind of has to switch here, unless he wants to sack Ting Lu. And sacking Ting Lu is really... I wouldn't say it's bad, it's just not ideal for him, especially considering Roaring Moon. If it is a Swords Dance Iron Head set, Mega Altaria does somewhat struggle against, and it being his only move, if all it takes is one prediction, and eventually that is all it takes. Okay, that is a really good switch for him. That minus attack isn't a big... ooh, the Rocky Helmet! Okay, that is massive. I was gonna say I predict him to be Earthquake as his last move for both Swalot and for Aegislash, but the Rocky Helmet there from the into the Play Rough, that is super good for him. Especially considering that Swalot do pretty good into most things. Landorus here. I did end up bringing a substitute set against him, so he is prepared for a substitute Landorus. However, the only thing to worry about really is that Landorus is a really good mixed attacker. A lot of people put a lot of heat on the special set, but even without any physical investment, this thing does huge amounts of damage into a lot of things and has really good physical coverage with Stone Edge, Rock Slide, Crunch. It even gets things like Hammer Arm and Superpower, gets Knockoff. It gets really good physical coverage moves. And Slowbro is probably his best bet here as a potential wall to Landorus, especially now that Ting Lu is down. Okay, that is a really good switch on his part. He does have to watch out for the Rock Slide or Stone Edge, because that'll do a large amount of damage into turn. But that is a really good switch for him, being able to get Swalot out of there, especially considering Swalot is kind of his best answer into even an offensive Bramblegast, because most things on his team don't like taking either a Grass or Ghost move. And this thing is also really good into like non-speed boosting Roaring Moon. Okay, that's good. Hope for no burn. Okay, no burn, that's really good. Knocking off the boots is also really nice. Though with Ting Lu being at such low HP, I don't know if we'll be able to get rocks off. I do assume that it is rocks. That's the team that I prepped with him. That's the moveset that I prepped with him with. So that's what I assume it is. Going Slowbro. That makes sense. That is an AV Slowbro, by the way. That is really solid, and it has enough offensive prowess to be able to hit a lot of good things on his team. Honestly, going 5 and 6 right now is really good on IHLP because he relies a lot on slowly wearing down his opponent's team and regenerating up with his Slowbro and Torn. So being able to switch back and forth on a lot of things is really nice for him. And Patrick having only 5 Mons means that he doesn't really have that much room to switch around constantly. That is something that we really need to look out for when it comes to Patrick's team. Slowbro here, it is able to do a good amount of stuff into a lot of his team. I am predicting a Scald here, maybe to potentially hit a Roaring Moon and get a burn off on it if it's coming in. It also does pretty good on Streamtail too. Getting a burn off means that it neutralizes its leftovers as well as just getting generally good chip on it. And then of course it hits Landorus really good, hits this thing for super effective damage. The only thing that it really isn't that great into is Bramblegast, but if you get a burn off on the Bramble, then it really interferes with a lot of its game plan if it's not support. And heck, even if it is support, it still does not like getting burned. So I think going for Scald here is probably the best option. I believe he is also running Ice Beam, so Ice Beam would be pretty okay here too. Okay, that's pretty much what I expected, getting the burn, and he is leftovers. Okay, I remember I ran Rocky Helmet on Screamtail, but leftovers is also good, and being able to get rid of that leftovers healing is good. And Stealth Rock, okay. So rocks are up on IHLP's side. I do know that he is boots on Torn, so that isn't a huge deal for right now, unless he gets knocked. And rocks generally aren't the greatest for him right now. Altaria, it does chip a good amount into it, especially since it is not mega'd yet, so it will take the 25% damage. It just generally gets like switching chip on a lot of his team, and I do know Torn is running Defog affected. All right, that's a pretty good switch on IHLP, being able to get Landers out of there. I am thinking that he's just going to go for U-turn or knockoff. I think that is generally the best idea here, because if he does go for... Okay, that is good. Okay, Defog. Getting rid of those is nice for sure. Now he's going Ting Lu. Ooh, that is really good. That is so good for IHLP. Now this lets him be able to get rocks up for free, because Moltres can't really do anything into Ting Lu now. He can Flamethrower and just try to get chip, but he's not going to be killing this turn. He could go for a U-turn, but I do know that this Ting Lu is physically defensive, so it may do a good amount, but it's not doing enough to kill. Ooh, a bunch of switches here. I was definitely expecting him to go for rocks, which is probably what Patrick was thinking that he was going to do. So that's why he went into his Rapid Spinner. But now this allows him to get his Mega Altaria off. Okay. As he was trying to burn, I'm not sure exactly what, probably to see if he could burn Bramblegast, seeing if he would be able to stay in. But I think this switch was pretty predictable. But now, what does Moltres want to do against this? Probably Toxic, I would imagine. Especially considering that Aegislash does not want to switch in to eat that Toxic. And not only that, but also just it being able to do a good amount of damage into a lot of things. I am somewhat predicting Swalot to switch in here, possibly Slowbro, but considering the fact that this is Toxic, I don't think he wants to do that. Okay, Swalot makes sense. And 34 HP on Air Slash. That might be in range to Flamethrower. I am not 100% sure. Air Slash is quite a bit weaker. Okay. Going for that. Just going for another Air Slash, not even going for Flamethrower. He is probably going to go for Toxic here. Honestly, Toxic on Slowbro is not the worst thing in the world. Slowbro's favorite thing to do is switch in and out of battle, so he's constantly resetting his HP, as well as the toxic damage. So it's really not that big of a deal if he gets toxic here. And now that you know that it's Flamethrower Air Slash, his last move is more than likely going to be Roost to be able to keep itself healthy. And if he can manage to get rocks up eventually and potentially kill this Bramblegast, then those rocks will be staying up, and Moltres does not like to deal with those rocks. Overall, though, I am somewhat predicting he could possibly go for Roaring Moon. I am not 100% sure. I do think Screamtail is just a safe option here. Being able to eat a Scald does pretty good. Going for Bramblegast, okay. Does he get the burn again? No burn. Okay. So that is not very good for IHLP. He was probably really hoping for that burn. But I am thinking that he is going to go into either Altaria, maybe Swalot, but I think Swalot's kind of his designated Moltres sack. That's sort of what I would say. He could be going Torn, in all honesty. Torn might be a decent idea. I don't see any realm where he should ever switch into Aegislash here. This is a pretty easy Poltergeist right now, so I do kind of think that going Altaria, okay. I don't think that was the best option, especially considering that now you know for a fact that he's going to be able to outspeed you. So pretty much you either have to sack Swalot or you have to... Okay, and he opts to sack Swalot. I personally would have saved Swalot for the Moltres sack, but I do think that going Torn here is a good idea. Nothing on his team right now really likes taking a knockoff or even a U-turn or even a Hurricane, so he can sort of just click any of his moves somewhat for free. I would probably say U-turn and knockoff are not the best option here, mainly considering the fact that Moltres is more than likely Flame Body, so getting a burn off on Torn is really not ideal. So I think going for a flying move, if that's what his last move is the best option here. It hits a lot of things really good. And for Patrick here, I would probably say switching into Screamtail or Roaring Moon is probably the best option. Screamtail will more than likely be able to eat a move pretty well. Okay, going for Moltres, not the worst idea here, especially considering that he is more than likely trying to predict a physical move, so he can possibly draw in a burn. That is something that I would do too. Though I think the safer option would have been Screamtail. But since this worked out, he is in a much better position, so it's sort of a risk versus reward thing. But now what do I think that everyone is going to do here? Ooh, he's going for the Bramblegast. Oh, the Wind Rider! I completely forgot that this Mon got that ability. And now he's at +1 against his entire team here. But yeah, that's really good for IHLP. I would probably say going for Knock is ideal. He might try to go for Moltres again, but I think he sort of has to risk it because at +1, this thing is really, really threatening for him. I'm not 100% sure how Poltergeist interacts with the Mega Stones, so maybe switching into Altaria here would be pretty decent. But overall, I don't think Aegislash is a good switch. I don't think Ting-Lu is a really good switch. Slowbro is definitely not a good switch. I would probably say either going for Knockoff or switching into Altaria is probably his best option here to prevent this thing from doing huge amounts of damage. I would probably go for Knock. Worst thing that happens is he gets burned going into Moltres. But overall, I think that's still one of the best options, because if he stays in and just attacks, then he knocks off this thing's item and he massively damages it. Ooh, okay, it's Colbur Berry. Alright, does 27%. I would probably say go for U-turn into... yeah, saving Swalot for this would have been really nice, especially considering Rocky Helmet would have been able to chip this. I think he needs Torn, so going Tinglu is not a bad option. And at +1, that does only 12%. He's more than likely going to be able to KO with Power Whip, or Seed Bomb, depending on whichever he goes for. Seed Bomb might not be able to kill. Just looking at the damage here, it would probably be a roll, I'd imagine. But Power Whip definitely does kill. And if I were him, I'm not exactly sure what I would go for. I don't remember if he has a Dark type move on Tinglu or not. I would probably just go for Rocks. Ooh. Okay. That is pretty good on him. The only thing that I worry about now is Aegislash, if he can live Poltergeist, because I don't think Shadow Sneak is enough to kill Bramblegast. I'm not 100% sure, of course. And I think that's sort of his best option here is to either go for Swords Dance into Shadow Sneak, or to just go for the Shadow Sneak and get the damage off. It really depends on if Aegislash at this HP and its investment is able to live a Poltergeist or not. I am not very sure about it, but at the same time, on Patrick's end, he could just go for it, especially now that he knows that it's not a Ghost Weaken Berry, so he could probably just switch into Roaring Moon if he really doesn't want to go for Poltergeist. Either option is kind of fine for him right now. Poltergeist is only at 4 PP, so if he's able to bait and switch out Poltergeist a bit more, there is a solid chance that he can be able to PP stall out his Poltergeists. Okay, and it just goes for the kill. Okay, that was not very good then in that case. Because he didn't even get the damage off with Shadow Sneak. He was probably trying to go for Swords Dance or something there. But yeah, that is really not good. This Bramblegast is a menace. This thing was able to sweep a few times during playoffs, and it's a really sleeper mon, especially considering with the Wind Rider ability, being able to eat a wind move like Hurricane and get an attack boost. That is super nice. And having Rapid Spin as well, it is such a sleeper mon in draft. Patrick has done an insane job of being able to bring out the best in some of his low tiers, like his Bramblegast as well as his Ursaring. It is super good. Moltres here on the switch, that is pretty good, and that Draco Meteor did a lot of damage. That is enough to KO Moltres from here, so he could just go for it again. But at the same time, that sort of is just a free Scream Tail switch in. It really is just up to his preference, I feel like, here. If it were me, I would probably either switch in Slowbro, or I would just go for the kill. And as for Patrick, I would probably see how much damage that did, and I would think, okay, I need to switch and go for Scream Tail. Okay. Having Morning Sun is also good. Being able to heal out of that range. He is more than likely going to go for... If he has a Dark type move, I would say that he should go for it, because otherwise Bramblegast is not ideal. Ooh, that Rock Slide. Okay, that really hits him hard. Didn't quite get the kill. That is more than likely max HP, max defense Moltres. That is insanely bulky. I am so surprised I was able to live that easily from a Rock Slide. Ting Lu is not an offensive pushover either. This thing has a really good attack stat. It is incredibly crazy that this thing was able to live a Rock Slide. I almost wonder if that was a range to kill or not. But honestly, what I would probably do here, air slash. Okay, well, guess doesn't matter. Okay, that is pretty good. Um, Now this is a really tricky situation. Okay, going for knockoff, that's good. No burn, that's also really good. I probably would have done the same. Um, Depending on the calcs, of course, because I didn't know if Moltres would be able... Oops, sorry about that. 1 second. Okay. Alright. I didn't know if knockoff was able to kill or not there. But depending on the calcs, since it did, that was always the better play. Especially considering that if he went for his Hurricane, that would have been able to be absorbed by Bramblegast. Roaring Moon here. Okay, so he is always able to outspeed Roaring Moon. Okay, going for Altaria. Okay, that was pretty good, I would say. A really good prediction. Pretty, not easily predicted, but I would say that is a very good switch on both of their parts, being able to predict the Altaria switch in, and Altaria just generally being able to wall a good portion of what this thing does. Being able to live that Iron Head for a second time is also really solid. When it comes to this now, it is kind of a touchy subject, because if he stays in and goes for Iron Head, there's always the chance for flinch, especially if he doesn't want to risk this thing roosting up back to full or getting Will-O-Wisp, since he also knows that he has Will-O-Wisp. The safest option here is more than likely going Scream Tail, because if he goes for the Will-O-Wisp, it doesn't do anything. Roost, yeah, it kind of gets it back up to full, but at the same time, Scream Tail being able to potentially Dazzling Gleam it is just the next best thing he can do. Nothing else on his team really wants to eat a Will-O-Wisp, and he either has to risk getting Will-O-Wisp or he has to risk the Roost. So doing one of those two things is really important here. I don't think staying in and going for the flinch is the best option, but at the same time, you never really know. There's always that chance that he gets the flinch, and the more often he does it, then that also does increase that probability. Because if he does go for the flinch and he gets it, then he just wins. He's able to KO Slowbro, he's able to KO Torn and Ting Lu. But at the same time, if he's not able to flinch it, then this thing gets knocked down and it dies. Altaria can be revenge killed by Landorus, but it can sort of get stalled out with Slowbro and Torn switching in and out of each other. So that is another really big issue for it. I would say switching out here is probably maybe switching out would be the best option for Pat. I would probably say switching into maybe Landorus and going for Sludge Wave if he has it, or even Iron Tail if that's a possibility too. Switching into Scream Tail would be good, but overall I don't like the idea of him staying in here. I think switching is just generally the best option, but we shall see what he plans to do. Okay, he goes for the Landorus switch and the Will-O-Miss. That is really not ideal for him. This would have been really bad if he ended up staying in and going for the other Iron Head. So honestly, this is kind of just a mid-wave through here. And going for Sludge Wave, that's very good. Just now, this depends on if he goes for a Crunch here or not. If he is mixed, I think doing that would be really iffy here. But I do know the Slowbro does carry Ice Beam, so I think that is his best option here. Going for Scald would be okay to potentially get a burn on a switch in, but I think going for the damage overall is just better for IHLP here. Um, but honestly, going for Ice Beam is just his best option. Scream Tail is able to eat it for sure, but it's still damage on it, especially since it's not getting its leftovers recovery. And if it's not the Wish Protect set, any bit of damage on this thing is really good. Roaring Moon, this thing takes at least like 30%. Okay, going for that. Ooh, and the nasty crit too. Okay. That is pretty good. Yeah, being able to knock that thing down is really solid. And now you're forcing him to go for Wish if he has it. And if he doesn't, then that's permanent damage there. So I would probably say, as of right now, either just trying to going for the more damage and just clicking Scald. Or even Ice Beam. Just going for Ice Beam consistently will dissuade him from switching. And just stalling out his Wish and Protect. But if he doesn't want to do that, then also going Torn here would be a good idea. Mainly because, oh, okay, going for Altaria. Yep, and he is the Wish Protect set. So he's more than likely, I could see him going for Bramblegast. Or I could see him also just healing himself. I think either option for Pat here is good. Ooh, that damage. Okay, and then Roost. Alright. So that is a good amount of damage on Dazzling Gleam. 39%, a lot. Okay, now he's just roosting up, trying to get out of range of 2 Iron Heads from Roaring Moon again. But he is really soaking through a lot of his HP recovery. Going for Torn, okay. Alright, does good damage, but now Scream Tail is back up to full. Actually, Scream Tail has been up to full, what am I saying? He was Wish Protect. Now here, I would just go for Knock. Going for Knock is probably the best thing he can do here. U-turn would also be fine, but being able to get rid of this thing's leftovers, Roaring Moon's, possibly choice item. I don't think he's Scarf. Okay, going for U-turn. I think going for Knock and then U-turn here was the best option. Kind of crazy that this thing outspeeds. Is this thing not max speed? How is this Torn not outspeeding him? That is kind of insane. I have no idea how the heck that happens. But okay. Yeah, that is really interesting. Okay, going for his Stealth Rock again. Yeah, I think just going for Ice Beams is just the best option that he can do here. He is more than likely the Stealth Rock, Wish, Dazzling Gleam, and Protect. If I had to guess, but he could also be a Fire-type move or Aegislash. But I do think that going for Ice Beams here is just his general best option. It dissuades him from switching. And being able to just switch in back and forth between Torn and Slowbro is also okay here. But I am not 100% sure. Okay. Yeah, doing that. I wouldn't say Scald is the best idea here, because that kind of gives Bramblegast a free in. Okay, that's fine. Getting Torn back up to full is also a good option here. I could see that what he was sort of trying to do, he was probably trying to encourage Bramblegast to switch in here. And Torn, while it doesn't handle it exactly, it handles it better than most things on his team, so you could just go for Knock. And that puts it into range of just a coverage move. Okay. Getting rid of this thing's Life Orb is really good. He is sadly back up to full from the Wish, but that thing being chipped even slightly and losing its Life Orb is really good here. I would probably say go for U-turn into Slowbro is probably the best option. Yep, there he is. Especially since that this thing is an assault vest. That is a huge amount of damage against an assault vest Slowbro, though. I have to admit that. Um, he is more than likely switching into Screamtail again. This is going to be a long battle, folks. I could see him going into Screamtail. He might go for Crunch if he is the mix set that I was initially thinking he was going to do. But overall, yeah, I think that's his best option. And then Slowbro going for Ice Beam, I think is just something he always should do. Ooh. Okay, and killing Landorus is so huge here. That allows him to be able to go in with Altaria a lot better. This is super ideal for IHLP. Because now Altaria is able to not worry about those sludge waves and can just sort of worry about Roaring Moon's Iron Head. But now Brambleghast is back in, so this is sort of a tough situation because work can kill. Okay, so he's going for the sack on Ting Lu. Being able to eat a Poltergeist is good. He was more than likely predicting Torn here. I think sacking Ting Lu is just the best option. Maybe going for Rocks. Ooh, getting back up to full with Strength Sap. Okay. And then this thing is probably Rapid Spin, if I had to guess. Okay. But yeah, Ting Lu, this thing is sort of just a health pack for Brambleghast right now. Yep, Rapid Spin, kind of to be expected. And the para, while it's not ideal, it doesn't really matter in the end. This thing is sort of just meant to be a sack. The only issue is with it spamming Rapid Spin, it now is able to outspeed Torn. So now he has to worry, yep, now he has to go into Altaria for this. I do think going for a Will-O-Wisp is sort of his better option. This does invite Screamtail in, and he might have to just try to go for something to be able to take out Screamtail. But I don't think... I think Will-O-Wisp might be a good option, because if this thing chips Altaria down too much, then that is a really big issue for IHLP, especially considering that Roaring Moon is able to do so much damage into everything else. Torn and Bro aren't going to be able to live many of its hits. Okay, going for Screamtail. Okay, good prediction on IHLP's side. It's not exactly what I have done, but again, it works out in the end. Being able to predict Patrick going into that is good. As he goes into Slowbro now, and he's probably just going to go for Wish Stalling strats. IHLP's team is very defensive, so it is almost always going to end up into a stall war if either side is not able to break through their defenses fast enough. This invites Roaring Moon in, and Torn is also here. I think going for a U-turn into Altaria here is the better play. Oh, that flinch. That is really not good, because that might be in range of a Dragon-type move now. I think his best option here is to go for Altaria, and that is mainly just the fact that... I really just don't know, man. It's really iffy here. Actually, wait. This thing is more than likely choice banded. Yeah. This thing might be choice banned, because I remember going over calcs with IHLP, and this Altaria is always able to live a booster attack +1 Roaring Moon. And with the amount of damage that it did before, that is more than likely not, and it's not booster, so this is probably a choice banned Roaring Moon. I think going Slowbro might actually be the best play here. Going Slowbro and then Ice Beam. I think that's just what he should do, because that'll get more HP on Torn. Slowbro is at a good amount of HP because of Regenerator already. You don't want to switch in Altaria here because you know that if he is choice banded, that he is locked into Iron Head. This being able to always come in and potentially force it out is really good here. I think going Slowbro is your best option. But we shall see. It's definitely possible he was trying to go for Defog. It's really rough that he isn't able to outspeed this. He's more than likely either bulky Torn or not enough speed to be able to outspeed certain things, as this is more than likely speed investment Screamtail. Yeah, this is a really rough situation for everyone to be in right now. Okay, going for the Iron Head as he goes for U-turn. Okay. I don't think that was the best play. I think it's kind of obvious that he is choice banded at this point. And now this sort of just lets him be able to go into Screamtail for free. But to be fair, both of these Mons sort of invited in Screamtail for free anyways. So that is interesting. Yeah, Screamtail being able to wall so much of his team here without Aegislash is really rough. Especially with Wish having 16 PP. This is more than likely going to turn into some form of stall battle. I would say for IHLP here, the best thing he can do is go for knockoff. Being able to go for knockoff lets this thing get rid of its leftovers. It knocks off Roaring Moons. Okay. Again, I wouldn't fully agree with that play. I think going for knockoff was just generally better. Getting rid of any of these things item would be good, as well as just generally hitting Bramblegast. Okay, now it seems like they're in full stall mode, so we shall see how things turn out here. Okay, as Patrick goes into Bramblegast, as IHLP goes for U-turn. Okay, going into Mega Altaria. He's more than likely going to be trying to go for some form of Will-O-Wisp. Especially now that he knows that Poltergeist is sort of the strongest thing that he can hit this thing with. I do also see him going for Roost. Roost is also a really good option. And Patrick, I think, should always just switch into Screamtail here. Going Screamtail is probably his best option. Yeah, that's sort of what I expected. Okay, going for Will-O-Wisp. I do think going for Roost there would have been better because it was sort of the obvious switch. But they are in full stall mode, so these little things will add up over time. But right in the moment, it's not that huge of a deal. Okay, and now they are right back to where they were before. I do think he should go for knockoff. Going for Roaring Moon, okay. The defog I don't think mattered too much here. I think getting rid of this thing's choice band would have been way more important. Especially now that, granted, I will say, getting rid of those rocks was nice, especially since now Roaring Moon has knocked off his heavy duty boots. But I think getting rid of this thing's choice band would have been way more important, because this lets him now be able to eat moves a lot better, especially since he always knows Screamtail is always able to switch in on this thing. So really getting it in against Roaring Moon is not that ideal anyways, because it's just a free switch into Screamtail every time. But going back into Torn, that is pretty good. He should be going for Stealth Rock, I imagine. Okay, no. Getting rid of this thing's lefties is good. That'll force it to Wish a lot more often. Because now he is always going to be taking damage instead of taking no damage, because Burn is no longer being canceled out by leftovers. Okay. Ooh, good damage. That is definitely solid chip. And now Knockoff isn't getting boosted, so he sort of has to go for a Dragon type move here, unless he wants to go for Iron Head. But Altaria is always able to live one Iron Head. Um, this is sort of an unfortunate position, though. Slowbro might be a good option. It really just depends on what this Roaring Moon will go for, because you know for a fact it's Iron Head and Knockoff, but you don't know if it's Outrage or if it's Dragon Claw. You might be able to live a Dragon Claw on Torn, but you definitely don't live an Outrage. Banded Outrage will be able to destroy you. So I think going for Altaria here is just the safest option, especially since you know that he's going to be able to live an Iron Head. Going Slowbro is also somewhat safe. The only issue is if he then predicts you going for Slowbro and goes for Knockoff, then you practically just lose because you don't have your pivot anymore. So that is a really big issue there. Okay, going for Screamtail, that's actually really good for IHLP, because now he is always able to go for another Hurricane. He probably should go for Knockoff though, because Brambleghast is still there, so him being able to eat a Hurricane and get a +1 is also very scary still. But this thing being in range now, this pretty much means that anything is able to KO it, depending on what Altaria's last move is. Scald, I don't think we'll be able to kill, but maybe after 2 ticks of burn, it might be able to. And this thing can no longer switch in. Okay, that is huge for IHLP. Those rocks being up are not the biggest deal in the world, because here he probably can just defog them away at some point anyways. And now this means that his Screamtail, the thing that was walling his Altaria, no longer has a wall for it anymore. So this lets him be able to click Draco Meteors for free against everything on Pat's team that is left over, being Brambleghast and Roaring Moon. So now this is a really interesting situation. The Stall War has officially been broken, and now Patrick just has to hope that his offense, as it currently stands, is able to withstand IHLP's defense. And this is another huge prediction here, because again, Outrage is able to do huge things into everything else on his team that isn't Mega Altaria. Okay, going for Brambleghast there, that is good. Now Mega Altaria is able to just get a Will-O-Wisp for free off on either Brambleghast or Roaring Moon. And now Brambleghast sort of has to fill a defensive role here, because with Strength Sap, it is the only thing that's able to keep itself healthy, and really that's the only thing that is able to withstand any sort of hits. Going for Power Whip, okay, trying to preserve some Poltergeist 8 PP, because he can't be able to damage it much on Torn and Slowbro. It does not do enough damage. Okay, these burns on it are now going to be really crippling on him. Sacking that Screamtail there was really huge in the terms of this battle. Power Whip didn't really matter. Altaria is now at full HP. Okay, now he goes into Torn as he Power Whips. This does not do enough damage at all. He can now, for free, either go for Defog or he can go for Knockoff. Going for Knock, I think, would be also pretty ideal, getting rid of Roaring Moon's Choice Band, but I do see the realm where he needs to go for Defog to get rid of these rocks for Torn in the future. Overall, I think in terms of how this battle has turned out, I think getting rid of Roaring Moon's Choice Band was a little bit better, though I will agree that keeping the Choice Band around did force a lot of prediction, because if he went for a Dragon-type move on a Mega Altaria switch, that was really, really bad for Pat. So I can understand why he would want to keep the Choice Band around. It's just not something I would personally do. And now we're in a different kind of stall war, where IHLP is either trying to stall out Strength Sap PP while keeping Brambleghast relatively low, or just generally trying to bait out that last Poltergeist. But overall, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. I think going Altaria here is safe. Slowbro is also somewhat safe. Um, if he... Actually, yeah, that is fairly safe. Because Ice Beam will do a good amount of damage into this. Should be able to kill from here. Power Whip is not able to take the kill, as Ice Beam does. And now Roaring Moon is in a really unfortunate position. It can no longer be able to kill Altaria as well as the last two, and IHLP seals the deal here. That is really... That is crazy that this amount of defense was able to wall Patrick's huge amount of offense. If there's anything that this thing wasn't choice banned? Wow, I am really surprised about that. I really thought that I was cooking with those brain calcs, but I guess not. But now he has to hope that he is able to Oko everything. Alright, so KOing Slowbro. Altaria. Okay, I think this should be able to live. The only issue... Oh, the crit! No! That seals the deal. That crit on Roaring Mid seals the deal. Patrick is the new champion of the MMC. Oh my lord, that ending. Oh my gosh, guys, that is insane. That is fucking huge. Oh my lord, the 1 in 16 to kill that Mega Altaria. Granted, the stats are a little bit off considering the flinch chance as well, but Roaring Moon takes the cake. Y'all have no idea how huge this is. Everyone was clowning on Roaring Moon for being Roaring Mid this entire season, and it was able to clutch up when it needed it. Patrick is the new champion of the MMC Draft League. Thank you all so much for tuning in for this season. I greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, and sub to not miss any more of my Draft League content. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.